Good evening, everyone. You're listening to another episode of the Tall and Short of It podcast. I'm your host, Justin.
And I'm Aaron. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I've got my video a little bit clearer. I figured out a way to do that, so
Nice.
we're in better shape than before. So
Up in the production value every week. I love to hear it. Good to see you, Aaron. How you feeling today, my friend?
I'm feeling pretty good. This past
Nice.
week's been kind of a mixed bag of weird. So and kind of to that, this is recorded on Thursday instead of Wednesday. And I found out why I got so delayed yesterday trying to get home. So we didn't record yesterday because I was driving home. I got delayed. My normally 35 to 40 minute drive ended up being an hour and 45 minutes to get home yesterday.
That's so brutal.
And I was didn't have any time to feel like I was prepared and ready to roll and do my normal getting my notes together before the episode. But two, I was really, really pissed off the entire time because my GPS just I had a pretty decent day, and then I just hit a parking lot of traffic. I ended up driving across a grass median along with a number of cars, hopping a curb in my Corolla to get out of it to turn around. My GPS kept trying to redirect me back onto the area that was backed up and the road was closed. I ended up driving probably 15 miles extra out of my way just to get around everything and finally make it home.
Dude, that's brutal. That's a long night, man. I'm sorry.
I was sitting there in traffic. I'm talking to Colleen on the phone, and I'm like, there better be something serious that is causing this delay. I'm like, a normal accident does not cause this. If it does, I'm like, then someone messed up. And
was there a woman in labor?
There was not a woman in labor.
Damn, I thought that was going to be a really good guess.
That's not a bad guess, but the actual answer was that there was a active shootout between a guy who staged a home invasion robbery and then ran 20 miles from the police, who then got in a shootout with them on the road that I was taking home, and ended up in a standoff hiding in a Sunoco shooting at police. So
that's
pretty substantial reason for the road to be closed and as many areas blocked off by police cars as they were. But at the time, pretty big inconvenience to our Wednesday night recording.
Jeez. So. Okay, that's super funny. And yeah, I had stopped texting you last night as well because I didn't want to be auxiliary to a texting and driving accident. So, I stopped messaging, but goddamn, I didn't know it was going to be that serious.
Yeah, I realized that while I was on the phone, I was getting more and more stressed out and more irritated with the fact that my GPS is first oh, you'll get home at 6 p.m. and it's oh, here, redirect this way and you'll be there at 6:05. But then it was redirecting me back the way I was towards the apparently active shooter situation. So I was my GPS has no idea what it was doing. I was in an area that I don't know any of the side roads. I only know this main highway.
Gotcha.
And so it was just it was a fiasco. So I was getting more and more stressed. Colleen's you should see if you can push the episode back. She's you don't
definitely
seem in the right state to be doing this. So I was it's fair. That's a good call.
Yeah, so well then in that case, good. I'm glad we postponed it. Goddamn, an active shooter. I would not have guessed that. That's pretty crazy actually.
Yeah, not what I would have guessed either. But yeah, there was that. My weekend was really awesome. Then today was a little rough. So it's been kind of some highs and lows for this past week. So I guess getting into my rose, thorn, and seed for this week. My rose is that I did have a really good weekend. I on Saturday, went to meet some friends. Me and Colleen went and met up with them. They and two of my friends who just got engaged relatively recently, they actually asked me to officiate their wedding. So I'm super, super pumped about that. It was like not something I really expected, but I was housemates with the one friend when she started dating her fiance. So I've like known both of them. I've known her a very long time. I've known the fiance since essentially when they started dating, and have been around and spent a lot of time around them. So that was a kind of cool thing. And then the rest of the weekend was just nice. Me and Colleen had a nice Sunday. We went mini golfing together, got some Rita's Italian Ice, did just kind of a all day. We went hiking in the morning. So it was a pretty solid weekend overall.
Are you a reverend?
Not yet. Their wedding's next year, so we're gonna figure out what it would take for me to be ordained, or if it is too difficult, they're like, we can go to the courthouse and get the official papers or whatever, but yeah, I'll do the actual ceremony.
Dude, that's super exciting. That's kind of sweet too, man.
Yeah, I'm really excited. They were like, don't feel any pressure to say yes. I was like, no, I want to do this. I was like, that is really awesome. So I'm excited for it.
That's really cool.
So
okay, neato.
Yeah, they are just gonna limit me to one dad joke or pun during the ceremony though. So I'll have to really like narrow down my list to just the best one, but
or just do a whole stand-up set of dad jokes.
And that is like, I don't even actually say like, you may now kiss the bride or anything. It's just dad jokes straight through.
Mm-hmm.
Probably unlikely. I don't think they would be super thrilled. But
probably not. Yeah, because then they wouldn't even be married at the end of it.
Exactly. So but yeah, I might end up getting ordained, so that's kind of cool.
Okay. Wait. So is that your seed?
So the seed is like, I guess, officiating the wedding and like looking out to that. But the rose was just a really good weekend in general.
Okay.
With all the positive stuff. My thorn was kind of two parts. One yesterday with the drive home and everything. That was just a nightmare. But the other one was after that came into work this morning and this guy followed one of our employees into the office at 7:45 before we don't open the office till 9, and this guy just followed a guy into the office because the door was locked, so he just went after him, and his car was, or his van was stolen overnight. So I spent intermittently throughout my entire day trying to figure out what happened to this guy's van and track it down, and watching through hours of camera footage and all this stuff. I found the video where I see his van actually be driven off.
Nice.
It's not, you can't really see any people though getting into it, so I still have a little more digging to do, because
or find a different angle.
Don't have a better angle. I have different angles, but nothing that's going to give me what I would need. So my goal is to hopefully just figure out, because there was another car with the person, and so the other thing is to see if any of our cameras caught make and model or license plate information or anything like that. So
damn, that's unfortunate for that guy. Lost his van.
It was, but his wife's screaming at me and acting like it's our fault as a company that his husband's vehicle was stolen was a little frustrating, to say the least.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Jeez, oh man.
So she was like, we've had so many issues lately. There are 3 issues. They lost their mailbox key and were upset that it took the post office the U.S. Postal Service so long to replace their lock and give them a new key.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the one part, which, of course, has literally nothing to do with us at all.
Right.
Second part, their air conditioner went out on them for a single day, and we gave them a portable air conditioner to keep their place cold and fix their AC the next day. So that was their second big issue. And then her husband's van getting stolen, which literally also has zero to do with us, other than the fact that I had to search through cameras to find
other
footage for
than
the police.
it happened on your lot. Yeah. It's
So,
not like you set up the...
Yeah, but she's like, was yelling at me, acting as though we have like done these things to her or made her life difficult by intent. It was like it was intentional.
Like she was taking it personally.
Yeah, and like, I don't know. Even with the mailbox thing, it took the post office a week to replace their mailbox key and lock.
Too long.
But 3 different days during that time span, which included a weekend where people weren't there, we flagged down our mailman and got their mail for them so that they would still have their mail and didn't have to worry. So like,
wow. So you actually like change your shit to help them out.
Yep, and not good enough. So what can you do? Some people will never be happy, so it is what it is. But
well, I'm sorry to hear that, man. What are you drinking, by the way? That bottle looks interesting.
It is Deschutes Twilight Ale. That was actually an interesting start to my weekend, I guess. I was getting ready to go.
Engine away.
Yeah, well, I was getting ready to go over to Shane's house, hang out and drink with them and the 2 friends that asked me to marry them, or marry them. And we went into the beer store next to me, and I knew, like, normally I'll browse around, and if I don't want something generic like Bud Light or whatever that's already cold, I'll just grab something that's like sitting out and put it in my fridge and cool it down. But I was like, oh, we need something cold. So I'm like, do you guys have anything summery in the fridge? They're like, oh, we have this. They're like, we'll give you a sample, but if you like it, you just have to buy the case. I was like, okay. So they like opened one of the beers from the case, gave us a sample to try it out. And I was like, yeah, it's pretty good. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll buy the case. So I just took it. So, but yeah, it's not one that I've had before, but it is pretty solid. And kind of
me a good ale.
Light and summery a little bit. So.
Okay. I like that. And I know you're a big fan of light and summery vibes too, so that's right up your alley.
Especially right now, at least. So
hell yeah.
Summertime, got to make it last. So.
Summertime vibes, man. It's a white girl summer, hot girl summer, hot boy summer.
Yeah, exactly. All those things. All the summers.
Wow, what's that dude's name? Chet Hanks. That's all you gotta say.
Exactly.
Anyway.
But how about you, man? How's your week been? Any big news? Good news, bad news?
No big news, but I can run through the news that we do have. I don't know if I talked about this before, but I'm obviously excited about it. So my rose for this week is a neck workout that I've been like talking with patients and clients about.
Okay.
So, and we can loop it back to our podcast, what we do here at the Tall and Short of It, where we talk about competition and general. So I was listening to Damon Hill on the Formula One Nation podcast, and he was talking about the tracks that go, right-handed opposed to left-handed tracks.
Okay.
What we know is on the F1 calendar, most of the tracks are right-handed, and then some of them go left. One of them is a track known as Interlagos, and they were asking Damon Hill about Interlagos and how he was able to avoid like headaches and neck discomfort during those races. And what he said was to compensate and make sure that he was make sure that he had the neck strength to go the opposite way was he would do neck exercises at home in the evening when he was just watching television or whatever. That's what he said.
Gotcha.
So
that's because that's a primarily left-handed track.
Right. And most times when you're cranking the wheel to the right, the G's are pulling you in the opposite direction. So you're kind of set up for that. But when you're going the opposite way, then you're going to have a lot of weak muscles on that right side, right? So the idea is to strengthen the anterior muscles of your neck so they can better hold the head up to resist those G forces, right? Gotcha. It's what we see like Lando Norris and Pierre Gasly doing now with like those full head things, and they're pulling to the side and it's like yanking.
The elastic band on it, and they're like
exactly. This is like it's a more just a higher resolution implementation of that strategy. But Damon Hill, this was like way before any of that infrastructure on teams and any advantage you basically brought yourself, right? Mm-hmm. So he talked about just doing these simple neck exercises and flexing forward and rotating and flexing forward and doing rotations. And what that's done is it pulls the pressure like forward, so you're balancing out the strength of these muscles.
Gotcha.
So I'm talking about this with my neck and shoulder clients that have like headaches and this and that, and the results are obscene. I've been doing them every day myself. I hit like 25 to either side, and then I hit like 20 going forward, and the results are astounding. Wait, I'm serious.
And so are you doing these like weighted or with resistance at all, or just
no,
literally
it's just the weight of your head? So I lay down on my back and you pull your head forward to where your front neck muscles are holding the weight of your head, and then you just start rotating. And you feel that burn in here immediately.
Interesting.
Right? Because so much of what we do is it's all back here. It's all upper back tension and staying stiff and this and that. But what happens if you can equal out that pressure, the neck drops forward, eases off the upper back, and you reach equilibrium, right?
Nice.
So I've been getting insane results. Like I would wake up with just like general neck stiffness, like no pain, but just stiffness. And these exercises are significantly helping that, like notably. And just it takes me like 3 minutes a day to do it.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I'll have to give that a shot because I just in general, like I'll occasionally get like kinks in my neck from sleeping, and I know plenty of people do. So like just to clarify, you lay on your back, tilt your head forward, and so like where your chin's touching your, or
nope,
not that far.
Ease back a little bit to where you can feel your neck muscles holding up your head, and then look left and right.
Okay. Interesting.
There you go.
Gotcha.
Yep. And you'll feel that burn immediately, and as the burn develops up front, you'll feel it ease off in the back, and
so it's not just the muscles on the back of your neck kind of holding up your head. It's like all the way around, so that it lightens the load on everything by sharing the load, kind of. So
exactly. So that has been my rose for this week. It's just getting phenomenal results. My clients love it, and I love it as well. So that's like super helpful. My thorn, I don't want to get into, but we've talked about it recently. So I'm just gonna say just a little bit more family business, being a thorn in my side. Little bit of growing pains, a little bit of maturing here and there. But overall, yeah, just some frustrating family business that's just fucking thorny.
Gotcha.
So that's unfortunate. But my seed on still the family side of it, which I'm very excited for. So me and Sarah had a conversation about love language and what if we have intimations about what our love language is and how can we improve it and communication and this and that. And through a little bit of introspection, I put two and two together and realized that my love language is like
gifts, don't you?
No. Is like game playing, like engaging in either like cooperative or competitive games with a loved one, right?
Gotcha.
Like most of my closest relationships are people that I've been in contest with before and have lost to and won against.
Gotcha. That's that's an interesting way, because like just in the general like love languages that are like people are aware of, like I'd say that's just kind of quality time, but it also adds in that competitiveness a little bit as well.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of like, so because I think that I'd have to look it up, but the general ones that I know of off the top of my head, it's like gift, either giving or receiving, quality time, physical touch. I think there's two more.
Okay, so mine is just a like an offshoot of the quality time.
Yeah, so it's words of affirmation, quality time, physical touch, acts of service, and and receiving gifts. So,
Gotcha. Okay, so yeah, mine's definitely quality time spent.
Yeah.
And my definition of quality time is like engaging in some sort of game together where we're either building something together or going like at odds, like we've had fun playing like Mortal Kombat or whatever.
So like competitiveness or camaraderie in some sort of like something
That's the word.
That is that you are like enjoy or passionate about, which in your case is typically like games or competitive, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
we had a conversation about that where like I was really able to like kind of flesh it out in a way that I was gaining new understanding about myself, right? Like the words that I was saying wasn't anything I had said to myself before. Right? So like we were both kind of learning, right? We were like putting two and two together. So from that conversation, we've been playing and just minimally, just a little bit more, right? But we've been playing Don't Starve together a little bit more, like just kind of being more intentional with it and like focusing and sitting down and spending some time. And we're noting like maybe 10-15% like increase in just like good feelings towards each other. Now I'm not saying me and Sarah were like at odds or like a broken relationship,
no,
but like we can easily feel just like the increase in love between us because
you're satisfying kind of your needs for exactly.
So. Yeah. And then in that we had the conversation where I was able to learn a little bit about her and understand that I need to be more willing to use, like you were saying, the words of affirmation, like let her know I appreciate her, let her know I love her, and say thank you and please and you're welcome and all of these things, where sometimes I would maybe leave that stuff out, take it for granted, whatever. But we learned a little bit about each other's love language, and over the past like week and a half, we've kind of come together in a little bit, and so that's kind of my seed for the week. It's been interesting, man.
That's awesome. I think that's a really important thing for like couples to kind of talk about, because my biggest thing in relationships is just communication.
100%.
I think a lot of people in our age bracket have experience with parents that don't seem to communicate with each other very well or with other people, and I don't know what it is about it. It seems like that generation just has a lot of communication issues, like our parents' generation. And I don't know if it's maybe we're just more in tune because we've been for most of our lives able to easily communicate with people through text messaging, cell phones, like whatever that they didn't have. So maybe that's something that we have just like grown into communicating better, just from our environment around us. But I
or maybe not communicating better, having a tool to use to de-intensify the tough conversations, right? Maybe our parents generation avoided the tough conversations, but we had the luxury of being able to put it in a text message and then send it out. Think of the self-editing that's possible with a text message. You can say exactly what you want.
I think that's probably part of it, and also I think just the fact that we are just communicating more frequently in general with people.
Yeah, 100%.
We just get more practice and more like accustomed to it, that we're more comfortable with just communicating in different ways. And like those difficult conversations are always like a weird thing, but I think that the ability to have tools to make that easier probably does make a pretty big difference. And because that's something like I've talked with Colleen about, like our love languages and all, and I know like mine are quality time and physical touch. Like when I'm around her, or like even like if I'm with my friends, like I can be a hugger. Like when I see people that I haven't seen in a while, like and stuff like that, I want to give them a hug. Like when they're leaving, if I know I'm not going to see someone for a while, I want to give them a hug. Like things like that, or just like when I'm like out and about with Colleen or something, we're at a bar, just like having my hand on her back kind of thing, and just like being there.
Gotcha.
Like that's one of those things that is just like, that's one of my things. But the quality time is a big thing too, because it doesn't really matter to me a lot what I'm doing, but if I'm intentionally spending it with that person, it doesn't matter if it's like we're watching a stupid TV show, we're cooking together, we're going and doing something, like we went mini golfing this weekend. Like it's more, mine's not maybe, I think it is quality time, but I can effectively make like time spent just in general like quality time.
Oh, sure. And maybe to that point, when you were going through yours, maybe the playing games together is like specific in a way that maybe I know that's when I like get most fulfilled, and you're saying like as long as we're together, you don't care what we're doing.
Yeah, pretty much. Like
that's awesome.
That makes
it really cool.
It makes it quality for me that I'm spending it with a person that I want to spend it with, whether that's my family, Colleen, my friends. Like it's the act of like me doing that with them is big for me. So
now, do you have elements of, do you like the going out times more than like a movie time? Because you have a very social persona about you.
It's a mix, because I describe myself as kind of a social introvert. Like I love social interactions. I love people. I love working with people. I'm good at it. I'm good at like typically calming people down if they're frustrated, or like being very empathetic, so I can really work well with people. But it can be exhausting, so it kind of depends how recently things have been going. Like if I've been spending a lot of my mental energy and all at work, and I'm like dealing with difficult people and constantly having to communicate in difficult or frustrating kind of situations, then a lot of times I'm more inclined to want to stay in or have like a more laid back, like less active. Okay. Like I've kind of used up my mental energy on those things, and then I want to kind of recharge a little bit. But then there's other times where things are kind of quiet, smooth, like I'm not really dealing with craziness at work. I'm working on projects, like doing a lot of like behind the scenes stuff. And then I'm like, oh yeah, like I want to like have interactions and go out.
Then's the time for the restaurant and the movie.
Right.
And this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Cool.
mine is kind of dependent on my mood and all, but
right.
But yeah, like things like words of affirmation, because that also like plays into like work. Like I don't need anyone at work or like anyone really telling me like that I'm doing a good job, or like it's nice to hear on occasion so that but for me it's more of a like, okay, I'm on the right track, like I'm not messing up, more than it is like, oh, I need someone to tell me that I'm doing a good job so that I feel good about myself. Like mine's more so to know that I'm not fucking up than it is to like feel good about myself if someone gives me like feedback of that sort. So
okay, you're saying you'd rather hear constructive criticism than just like bald praise.
Yeah, and like so like words of affirmation are definitely not one of mine. They're like I'm like, but I understand some people do, but for me I'm just like, nah, like I'm good.
Sure. Well, I mean, that's what we're talking about. We're just talking about like just individual difference. Yeah, 100%. Same with like the gift giving. Like I'm a total just like I don't identify with that at all. I find like Christmas really hard to get behind. Just like gift giving in general is very difficult with me. So yeah, it's funny how we clamor for like certain forms of love, but can just like totally dispense with others. Like if Sarah told me I love you like a year ago and that was the last time, I probably wouldn't notice, right? But like I can count on my fingers like the last time we played Magic. Like I know down to the second the last time we played Magic together. You know what I mean?
It was like 9:30 on Tuesday the 10th and
exactly. So like I just find it fascinating that so there can be such a varied difference in how we receive and experience like love and affection. So yeah, it's just interesting. I'm glad you shared with me yours because that's fascinating. And I have a feeling that if anybody's been listening for any amount of time, I have a feeling they might tell us that we've talked about love languages before on this show.
I feel like we have probably briefly here and there.
Yeah,
so
it's a good thing to touch on because if you're out there in the world with a significant other, which I'm sure a lot of us are, it's a good conversation to have. It's very helpful.
Oh, definitely.
But yeah, so that was my seed. I thought that was interesting. I'm glad we were able to go a little bit deeper on it too. That was kind of cool. But let us shift over to the big meat of the show. Why everyone's here?
Well,
we have 4 big playoff games to go through for the NaLCS.
Before we get to that, did you want to go through the quick F1 topic, the whole accidents and
yeah. Who's paying for that shit?
Yeah, so something that had just popped up on my radar of F1 and Twitter and tweets that I see and follow. For Formula One on their website, and I think they tweeted it out. Had a brief interview with Mattia Binotto, the team principal for Ferrari, and he feels from this interview, and obviously this is a pretty in-depth topic, that teams that are at fault for accidents should pay for the damages to the other vehicles. And so this is something that kind of comes into play, especially now with the knowledge of the fact that there is a budget cap for teams for what they can spend on parts and creating those parts for their vehicles during the season. Because if you do use up your budget cap on accidents, crashes, things like that early on in the season, later on you could potentially run into a point where, hey, maybe the upgrades that you're supposed to get for the later races in the season, you can't afford to even make them. And I don't know exactly how that works with budget caps, but for instance, the the accident that Red Bull had with Max Verstappen getting taken out by Lewis in the race a few weeks ago at the British Grand Prix was cost about $1.8 million in damages. And their budget for the team is $145 million. So, like, yeah, you think that's 1%. It's a drop in the bucket, but I mean, that is just from one accident, not including all of the money and everything that they have already put in and planned out for in their budgeting for the year. So that's pretty significant. And then Mattia Binotto explained that during the Hungarian Grand Prix with Lance Stroll hitting Charles Leclerc, he caused a significant amount of damage, and his engine had to be completely scrapped afterwards. They got grid penalties for having to bring in a fourth power unit, and so that ended up being about 2.5 million euros, so probably closer to $3 million just from that one accident that was caused. So it's interesting because there is a significant portion that money has to play with this, and you do have that budget cap. So yeah, I guess, like, what are your thoughts on this? How do you feel? Do you feel like maybe it should be paid out by the offending team and not taken out of the budget from the team that was damaged, or just, hey, that's racing, shit happens, pay for your car?
It sounds as though teams haven't put together decent expectations for a season. It sounds like their financial teams didn't make an actual budget,
or at least budget in for potential catastrophes.
Right. What it sounds like to me is it sounds to me like their definition of budget is very loose if all they're thinking of is, like, development costs, advertising, blah, 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 driver costs, blah, blah, and then fucking Max goes into a wall and they were like, man, I didn't think that was going to happen. It sounds to me like somebody's putting together a poor budget. I don't believe the onus falls on the responsible driver, just because, like we were talking about before we turned on the camera, you outlined a very, very easy to think of thought experiment where multiple cars are involved in some kind of racing incident, and then who do you point fingers at and who's ultimately responsible? So I think to prevent teams getting shafted by maybe misinformed FIA officials when they're going back on, like, the review, I think to save teams from getting shafted in that way, what should be focused on is a way for teams to factor in these large number repairs that just have to be factored in to a racing season that it doesn't sound like these teams have been previously.
Yeah.
Like, dude, for crying out loud, like, I'm sorry to bring it up, but fucking Grosjean's car got literally cut in half last year. And if there's somebody on the Haas team going, like, I don't know how we're going to pay for that, that's really surprising to me for a team that is sponsored by, like, multinational organizations with thousands of employees.
Yeah, I think
Come on, bro, fix your car.
Yeah, and I think in my mind, because I don't know what kind of spending was happening for different teams prior to the budget cap.
Yeah, what are they spending money on if they can't like fix their car?
So I don't know. I don't know what the budget cap for this year is. What is it? $145 million. So
that's everything, though. That's driver salary. That's everybody's paycheck. That's everything.
So, I don't know if maybe there's an in between where it's hey, you have to give an accurate estimation of damages minus the typical cost per race, like your average wear and tear that are parts that you have to change, yada yada yada. So cost of damages to a vehicle from a crash, right, minus that, and hey, no one has to pay for it, but that amount doesn't get taken out of your budget. Or maybe just fucking every team should budget for accidents and stuff to happen. But then of course that kind of leaves it open to the abnormal circumstance where maybe someone just gets absolutely fucked race after race, and they get 7 DNFs from weird situations with people running into them or whatnot. So if you're saying, hey, this is the budget for your car, your driver, your creation of parts, hey, maybe you have to pay to fix your car, but that doesn't come out of your just standard budget or budget cap kind of thing. So I don't know. I think it's a very nuanced kind of topic that there's maybe not a great answer to, but I do think that it's kind of insane to just expect the other teams to foot the bill, because things happen. If you set or what happens if there's a rainy race and someone just loses control out of not anything really due to them but due to weather or something, do you not penalize that team and say, maybe you could say reckless driving or being too aggressive, you can put the blame on someone, but
dude,
if
Max
it's
and
weather
Lewis
related
scenarios
or something,
happen all over the place. Dude, then nobody would ever be on the same side about a call if shit like that was going down. Oh, you're responsible, you get a bill, and you get a bill.
Or if they're well, it was a dry day, so you can really put the blame on the drivers. But then they're oh, well, it was raining out, so you really can't put the blame on Lewis because his tire spun and he locked up. It's just so
it's so subjective.
Yeah, even in that, you said, with it could just be a bad call by the FIA. It's hey, this guy gets a penalty on this race, and people are I don't think that's right, but they're well,
there would be no recourse. There would be no recourse, and especially these reviews that Christian Horner's sending in, Mercedes is sending in, fucking if those are just getting oh yeah, we've already seen that, those are just getting shot down, there's obviously I'll say concern for consistency with calls, right?
Yeah. And I think it could also just be a slippery slope in general too. You're oh well, the accident this past week, Max lost the side panel of his car, so then he lost this many positions, so that means that they're owed XYZ. I don't know, it's just
right.
I think it
seems like a lot of gray area to cover.
Yeah, so I feel I do kind of lean into what your perspective is, and hey, maybe if this is the first year with the budget cap, maybe if we're seeing a decent amount or pretty high costs of accidents, hey, bump up the budget next year by $5 million just to be hey, there's a little extra room for wear and tear or like situations like that with cars, or hey, like maybe not, and just be like, hey, you got to deal with it, and it is what it is. Like, that's racing.
Another thing that I just thought of is, and this is more to the like racing incident argument, where what if the teams, as part of the budget cap, what if at the start of the season they all put like, what if they all put like $3 million in a pool? So then that's $30 million that Formula One teams have as a whole. Like, what if it was like an insurance, like an insurance pot, right? And all of the teams get to use that pool of $30 million for any of the racing incidents that go down. Like any damages to vehicles, it's pooled from that $30 million, and then you could work in like, oh well, like if Haas didn't use any of it because they didn't have to, well then theirs is just like, it's there for next year, they don't have to pay in. You could work out like legacy rulings where, you know, let's say Mercedes never uses theirs, or like whatever the things would be. I think you have to put it not on all one person's shoulders. Dude, we have single-seater vehicles moving at like 300 miles an hour. You want to try and put blame on some shit like that? Dude, I really think if you want to make a solution that like is going to have just the greatest benefit to the organizations as a whole, you make it a team effort, and you don't try and point fingers and say Lewis was off the racing line by 0.8 centimeters. He gets a $1.8 million fine.
What?
Like, I don't think that stuff's fair. I think it's got to be a team effort.
I think building off that, I think a good solution would be, okay, so you said like $3 million each team puts in. $3 million, that's $30 million at the end. How about you have 23 races on the calendar. So
oh, so you take that $30 million and you make like a race cap. So teams can use X amount from this racing allotment, and then any extra you pay.
Each team puts in 130. So the breakdown of $3 million by 23 races is $130,434.78.
Okay.
Each team puts in that much each race, and any outstanding damages outside of general like wear and tear, general race stuff, accidents, yellow flags, red flags, or whatever.
Then there's a fund to prepare for it.
That money is dispersed to the teams accordingly, or split up based on whatever teams have issues. And then you do that per race. So that avoids a situation where a team pays in $3 million in full and then never gets to any value out of it. Like, I think it like isolates it to the general scenarios of race by race, instead of like having this big just like kind of slush fund that's just like thrown out. It's like, okay, like, well, at least like you'll get part of it covered per race, but like no guarantees that it's gonna be like. I think that might be a more reasonable, like using that concept to make it more practical, like throughout the season.
Oh yeah, oh for sure, yeah. There would definitely be.
Because, like, what if you get to the last race of the season and, hey, the whole $30 million, it's already been dispersed out to everyone. And you're like...
and that would be the thing where it's just like, well, then you just got to fix your car. Like, sorry, it's been a brutal year, you know?
Yeah. So, if you have it like a race-by-race thing, then that avoids any weird situation like that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Say, like,
that's a very good point.
Haas doesn't have any accidents until the last race of the season, then they get, or like second to last race, and their car gets fucked, and they're like, hey, where's the money? And the FIA is like, Sorry, money's gone.
Not there, right? So sure. I think to Binotto's intention, there is definitely positive changes to be made in that light. Because if we look at what some recent accidents have done to the Formula One fans, it's been really divisive. And so I think if there was like a clear strategy for how those things could be handled in a fuck the word, but in like a non-biased way, I think that's just best for everybody, the teams, the drivers, the FIA in general, and the fans, so they don't have to be, this side or that side.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting thought experiment.
And I think the other thing is like just doing that between the two of us who are novice like Formula One fans, especially compared to like the FIA and people like that. Like, we just came up with a number of different possible solutions in, like, a 10-minute time span with multiple ones that seem pretty reasonable.
Or at least, like, good foots forward to then, build off of and work with.
So, like, I would hope that the FIA, like, if they are considering anything like that, could come up with some positive solutions if the two guys on the internet, came up with that quickly. So, but I just thought it was an interesting thing. I thought it would leave us a little open-ended kind of question to discuss, and also get a little F1 back in, since we are a week and a half out from the next race at Spa.
Yeah, we've been race dry here for a couple of weeks, so I'm happy to talk a little bit about it. But yeah, I think big excitement coming up for next weekend. We have, like you said, we have the race in Belgium at the Spa track.
I'm getting the shakes, man. I'm getting the shakes. I can't.
Withdrawal symptoms.
Yeah, I am.
There you go, dude. And we're gonna be getting back to one of my favorite tracks on the F1 calendar. So yeah, it's been too long of a break, I can say that.
Yeah, I'm definitely ready for it. Ready for that competition. And speaking of the general competition that we almost started out before that little F1 sidebar. LCS, we had 4 playoff matches this week. We and 4. I mean, every one of those matches has some decent things to talk about, and there was one theme that I saw carried through, which I'll bring up once we get to the later matches. But the first matchup we had was Dignitas versus Immortals. So. Yeah.
I guess that was a 3-0 for Immortals.
It was. So just, I guess...
Spoiler alert.
In general, thoughts, like what were you thinking about that? I mean, Dignitas got 3-1'd by Evil Geniuses, who has shown that they're a pretty quality team, but then gets 3-0'd by Immortals, who started out in the losers bracket. Like... that did kind of surprise me. I was not expecting Dignitas to necessarily lose, especially having the first playoff series that they got a little bit of practice under their belts, but especially to lose in that fashion. So the one game that Dignitas won against Evil Geniuses, they drafted an early Renekton and were able to get the Lovers duo. They were able to get Zaya Rakan, which they looked for in Game 2 against the Immortals. And the draft looked really solid. I actually thought the draft from Dig in that second game where they got the Zaya Rakan, I thought that was where they were going to get their game in this series too, and then hopefully get some momentum, because that's where they got the win against Evil Geniuses. The Renekton, the early picking Renekton in the draft, and then looking for this like a good 2v2 bottom lane was what I thought was going to be Dignitas' key to victory against Immortals. But
I think Immortals bottom lane was just a little bit better. Like Reyes is kind of a madman.
He's
and
good.
The 2v2 that they had was really solid. So even the game that they got the Lovers duo, like it didn't do enough, and that was like really the one boon that they had in the EG series, and it just didn't pan out in the Immortal series.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the things that was interesting to me. Like, Immortals came out and played some different picks, and it seemed almost as though Immortals was playing like a little less standard than Dignitas was. But also at the same time, that game 2 where Dignitas did get the Zyurakan bot lane, like, they ended up with Mordekaiser in the top lane, which just did not pan out. It doesn't... I don't know where that pick came from. Like, honestly, I mean, that game, like, Renekton was banned, Irelia was banned. Those are the only 2 top laners that were banned in the first rotation. Second rotation, we had Gangplank, Camille, and Nar banned. You're like, and they picked Mordekaiser. Like, there are plenty of other picks that they could have played. There's Camille. There's Lee Sin. Lee Sin was not banned out or picked in that game. There are just a number of different top laners that you could go with, as opposed to the Mordekaiser. And like, it's not like they didn't have an AP threat. Like, they had Sylas in the mid lane that has a similar kind of idea as Mordekaiser, which is like AP damage over time. Sylas is trying to stay alive, be a bruiser, get in fights and all, and put out AP damage. Like, that's what Mordekaiser's doing. Like, I don't understand the pick. And just on a side note, every time I watch Dignitas play and I hear the casters calling things out, every time they say fake god, it sounds like vape god in my like, I just
vape god. That's so funny.
I don't know why, but
blowing huge clouds, the vape god.
That's what I hear every time they say it, and I just think it's hilarious in my mind, but that might be a better title than fucking Giga Useless. That's super funny. The vape god. I love that. Like, it just... I don't know why, but the way that they say it, when they say it quickly... Like, I know what they're saying because I know the guy's name. But if I was just a random person that's like, oh, let me check out this League of Legends thing, and they're like...
Right.
And fake god on the Mordekaiser, I'd be like, vape god? What?
Right. Well, I mean, all these guys are trying to pick a new name from their mother-given fucking Johannes or whatever. Like, they're trying to be a hero.
Hey, man, I went from Aaron the Tank to just Aaron.
That's still what you're in my phone as, by the way. Aaron the Tank. Yeah.
Love it.
Good for you.
But yeah, that series in general, like, Immortals controlled it. They were all relatively, except game...
Dude, 3-0 is brutal.
And game 3 was the longest game of them. Like, games 1 and 2 were quick. They were not, like... I'd have to look at the timings, but they were probably... I think game 2 was around, like, 27, 28 minutes. Like, it was...
Yeah, they were really fast.
That was a really fast series. Reyes, like you said, looked really good. And that's something... excuse me. My voice cracked there for a second. That's something that is kind of impressive to me with some of the newer AD carries in LCS. I think a lot of people were concerned with LCS with losing some of the bigger names in general for... players, especially like AD carries, though. You had Double Lift leave recently. You had Sneaky leave relatively recently, who are two of the biggest names. Like, there are definitely other ones that I'm missing, but those two off the top of my head are two of the probably most famous LCS players like in history. Probably 2 in the top 5.
Not only well known, but they were both at one point top of their role, if not 1 and 2.
Yeah. So those are like
at multiple points in both of their careers.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Okay. And so those are 2 like phenomenal AD carries, and it was kind of like, well, what's going to happen? Like who's going to fill that void? So we had
top laners.
Top laners, but like who's going to fill that void and who's going to fill that void in the bot lane? And we've got
I gotcha.
We've got Reyes out here who's going 5-1-8 on Syndra bot lane, going
Tactical's fucking insane too.
We've got him going 2-3-8 on the Ziggs, which was not like he didn't need to put out damage. He was just about killing turrets that game. We've got Tactical. We'll get to him in a little while.
He is probably the most fun AD carry to watch.
I would counter it with the opposing AD carry from that series of Danny. Danny is fun to watch.
No, Danny is fun to watch on Tristana, and that unofficial pentakill, whether they want to admit it or not, it had more to do with the Rise and Gangplank chasing than Danny being a mechanical god. They easily could have just turned around and went to the top lane.
You're not wrong, but at the same time, his positioning...
Anybody would have done the same thing on Trist. It's so easy.
His positioning, though, earlier on in the fight put him in that position because he did, like, flash on, like, deeper into the mid lane, go ham, get the kills, get the resets on the Tristana and all. We'll get there. But...
I don't think Danny is all that.
I have been very impressed with him as a rookie in the LCS. He definitely, I agree with him being rookie of the year, and just overall, I was pretty impressed with him. Whether or not he's the best like new AD carry, like he shows a lot of promise, which is exciting for. Like, it's more new people to root for. Like, you do still have some of the older players in the LCS still hanging in there and playing well in the AD carry. You've got Stixay and Sven, and you've got, like, some of those...
Stixay is playing okay. I've never been that impressed with him. I think Sven plays out of his mind every single game. His positioning is, like, damn near perfect.
Yeah.
In every fight, every skirmish. Him and Vulcan were demolishing 2v2s.
I'm curious, actually. I want to look at player stats real quick because I have a feeling that he is probably near the top in KDA because of just purely based on, like, his... Yeah. So, This is weird. Is this just for... Okay, I guess this is just for LCS, but Sven is 4th behind Revenge, Xerxes, Destiny, and Reyes.
Okay,
so
that's across roles. So he's 2.
But those are all Immortals guys, and this is just for playoffs apparently. So let me look at the 20.
So they're popping off.
Yeah, they also have played less games. So, looking at summer season player stats, like, I would expect Sven to be he's 2nd in KDA.
What?
Behind Luger for 100 Thieves, who played 1 game.
Gotcha.
And went 6-0-2. He has the highest KDA with a 7.883 KDA.
My man, that's insane, dude. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, so like
nice.
But that 100% shows like him as a player, and I've noticed that throughout the season too, especially like you said with the positioning and all. Like even in games that Cloud9 loses, which they had
He
their
dies
fair
like
share,
one time.
barely dies, and half the time it's at the end on like a fountain dive, like Nexus defense. Like he's not getting killed a lot. Like he is playing extremely well. Just overall, his average deaths per game is 1.33.
That's absurdly low.
Yeah. Like
that's absurdly low.
The only person with less, and so that's over 18 games for Sven.
Right.
That is only being beaten by Luger again, who was 6-0-2 in the one game he played for 100 Thieves, and Saligo, who played 3 games and averages 1 death per game.
Wow. Gotcha.
So like
that's crazy.
Of people with a significant amount of games played.
And he's playing like Varus, Aphelios,
Jhin, and Callista are his 3 most common
okay, so Callista's mobile then. My bad. I fucked the third one up.
Reasonably, but like
she's got the hops. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's why she's banned in all these fucking series.
Exactly. But like, yeah, Sven has been a beast. So there are like some of the older players that are still solid, but like Lost on TSM is not someone who really impresses me a lot as an AD carry. Not that I think he's bad, but I don't think he's like a future star of the LCS like some of these other guys.
Right.
Or FBI, 400 Thieves. Like he's good. I like him a lot. He's
fun
up
to
there.
Watch.
He's up there, but I kind of lean, like you said, tactical. I'm leaning more towards like tactical, and then some of these younger guys I'm excited to see, hey, do they go past like the FBI or some of these other longer standing players. I'd love to see how Reyes does in another season or so and see if he can keep up the performance. I'd love to see if Danny can do it, because like Rookie of the Year, like that's a little bit of hype behind you. Let's see how it goes into the future. That's pretty exciting. So.
And it's tough to be on such a bad team too. Like Dig just got bodied.
Oh yeah, like
so.
Or that's Dig has Neo as their AD carry. Danny's on EG.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, him and Jizz on me.
Exactly.
Okay.
Not what I was expecting to hear. So, but I think that we've got a lot of good players that are coming up in LCS, which I was a little like questionable about, but seeing Reyes perform that well on Immortals, like I think that next matchup is going to be kind of interesting between Immortals and TSM. Like I don't expect Immortals to beat TSM, but I kind of am feeling like Immortals might have the stronger bot lane potentially going into the series, all dependent on really Sword Art. Like Sword Art is the linchpin. I don't expect Lost to all of a sudden start playing out of his mind. But that's the thing that I think, and going into the next series with Cloud9 and Golden Guardians, the thing that I noticed the most about these series throughout the weekend was how impactful the support role is right now and how important I feel like it is. Obviously it's always an important role and everything, but the winning teams in these series, their supports are playing absolutely out of their minds. So, like in the first series with Immortals and Dignitas, just to run back to it, Destiny went 0-1-13 on Rakan, went 0-1-14 on Thresh, and then went 1-2-10 on Nautilus. Like that is an insane kind of stat line.
Also, to your point about support focus, I'm looking, and it looks like Thresh in all of these playoff matches was only not pick banned in one game. One game. And that was Liquid versus Cloud9. They didn't pick or ban him.
Yep, and that was like in the winners bracket first round, so that was not even like in this section. Yeah, Thresh has been pick banned. I mean, I see
a lot of Nautilus as well. I see a lot of Leona.
Yep, that's what I was gonna say.
Players have been picking back up the set in support role. Well, the game that Liquid won against TSM game 4 when they brought the Galio bottom lane as support, but they were also able to get the Kalista too, which is disgusting. She's only been picked like one time this whole playoffs, and Liquid got it.
Yep. Kalista.
Insane, dude. Yeah, the bottom lane is super important. Like, it's super important. So many drafts are, like, built around it.
Yeah, exactly. It's nuts.
Well, and also, now, this may be, I think this is closer to your point, is the supports being important, is you're seeing the timer of, like, seeing on support first base, they go, like, their red side jungle get wards out and then meet in mid and try and like coordinate with the jungle, and they like 3v3 the mid lane or like try and get a 3v2 or whatever. Yeah. Like the amount of roaming supports that's going on is like, it's crazy.
Well, I mean, even looking back at that Cloud9 Liquid series, there was the one game where Vulcan and Core JJ neither of them were in bot lane, like for like I forget what they were saying.
It was just a 1v1. It was like the Ziggs versus the Ezreal.
Something like that. Yeah, and I think just overall in that matchup, like that game, the supports had like a 5% duo proximity or something like that, which was obscene.
I remember that. Yeah.
And I think it was that game, but just in general, like that's just wild. And so like especially with these hook supports and things like that being so prevalent,
playmakers, dude,
the Thresh, the Nautilus, I'm surprised we haven't seen the Blitzcrank. I mean, we've even seen the Bard be banned once and then picked 3 times during the TSM series. We had 3 Bard plays. Like, that's not a champion that I expected to come out, but the playmaking potential is there. And so,
well, fucking what's a support name for Team Liquid?
Team Liquid, it's Core JJ.
Core JJ. His Bard ults were far and above better than Sword Art. Like, it felt like TSM was picking the Bard to keep it away from Core JJ. But, like, Sword Art did not look good on the Bard at all.
No, not at all. And honestly, it still blows my mind. And just as a side note, the fact that Core JJ used to be an AD carry. He was an AD carry for Dignitas. Like, he decided to go to Korea, play support, and then come back as a support to NA and just perform extremely well. So, like, he's just insane in my mind in general. But yeah, like his Bard was so much better in that series. But I guess before we get too far ahead of ourselves and off track, we had the Cloud9 Golden Guardian series, which was kind of it was a pretty big stomp just in Cloud9's favor. Like,
yeah, for sure.
They looked really good. Perks looked solid. I was happy to see him looking more comfortable and on like more comfortable picks for him. He got the Rise in 2 games, the LeBlanc in 1.
Is just insane for Cloud9. Them getting Rise is a fucking mistake.
Oh, 100%.
It's a fucking mistake. They are playing around that ultimate so fucking well, and also playing around the 27-minute plus split push, right? They're doing it beautifully, man. I don't think any team is playing Rise better than Cloud9 right now.
I don't think so either, and I think like it's interesting because literally Cloud9's only consistent mid lane ban was just banning out the Syndra. Like that was the only thing that they're like, yeah, we just don't feel like putting our like putting perks up against Syndra on Rise or on LeBlanc. That was it. Like no other at least first round bans to mid laners. Like you see the LeBlanc banned in by Cloud9 in game 2 there, but otherwise like that was the only time that they banned another mid laner. Like,
yeah, so it's clear that they're comfortable playing against most things except that range advantage.
Yeah, and
that
so
Syndra has.
Seeing like perks on comfortable picks, like that's pretty scary. Like he looked really good, and like Golden Guardians just couldn't get anything going. Fudge looked really solid in the top lane, because I would have expected Licorice to be the most difficult person on the other side of the table to potentially have some issues. I mean, or cause some issues, I guess. Fudge beat him in the Tom Kench versus Renekton matchup. Then he beat him as Viego versus Tom Kench.
Yep.
And then Licorice on Wukong versus Fudge's Gnar. Like
that was a big draft mistake. Yeah, the
Wukong I have not been very impressed with.
It's not good.
I'm not sure why that's getting picked much. The other pick that I've seen that I'm not super thrilled with is the Jace, just because I feel like it can, if you get ahead, it's big, but if you are behind at all in that match, like with Jace in general, like you just lose in the long term. Like maybe if you get to a 50-minute game, which never happens in in any league right now, maybe the Jace will have enough poke damage that you're like in a good spot. But that's about all I got in terms of that pick, which I feel like we've seen throughout. So the Wukong is like in that vein. I just don't think that it's a good pick. I think there are much better picks that you can play. I mean, even in that game, that was game 3 for the Golden Guardians. Like there were options open, particularly the Ornn. Like the only other, there was no top lane ban, except maybe you could say Lee Sin, like, was a top lane ban. Right. No other ones. There are plenty of other top lanes. You've got Sion. You've got the Gnar was picked by Cloud9, but you got Sion. You've got Ornn. You've got Gangplank. You've got like a number of options.
You can play Camille in this meta too.
I mean, I don't even think was Renekton. Renekton wasn't even banned in that series. Why not pick Renekton instead of Wukong? Like, what does Wukong do for you that Renekton's not going to, or what does Wukong do better?
Well, they might have been trying to buy. They were trying to buy the Wombo combo with Orianna, MF, Wukong. They were just trying to go for like a big level 6 and like push the Drakes. Yeah,
I can understand that, but I don't know.
I think it's a weak pick. I'm agreeing with you. I just think that's the comp that they were trying to buy there.
Yeah, just going for a Wombo combo as you're like, this is especially
tough.
Like
it's tough. It's hard to play, man.
That's your final elimination game. They don't have a loser's bracket when you start out in the loser's bracket. Like,
yeah,
you're sitting there and you're like, hey, this is win or go home for the rest of the year, and you're like, Wombo combo, Orianna, Wukong, Misfortune, this is gonna do it. Like, I don't know, maybe at that point you're like, we're getting beat so badly that you're like, maybe the only shot you have to win is a little cheese, but I don't know, man. If that's your only shot, like, you've already lost in my mind.
Yeah, well, 100%, 100%. Yeah, that's like a total like bad read on the meta. Like Oriana's playable, but I don't think the MF or the Wukong even remotely is. Like he falls behind it all, and it's GG. That ult does no damage.
Yeah, exactly. And all you have is the fact that you get to knock people up twice before you get swatted like a fly. Like it's not
it's
good.
Just not good.
So, and that's like not no. Honestly, Golden Guardians performed about how I think we would have expected them to. And I think Cloud9 performed how we would have expected them to in the first series versus Liquid, which they didn't come out and play that well. So, I think C9 kind of showed up, and Golden Guardians played about what it was expected, but
yeah, I would have to agree.
C9 just kind of shut that shit down.
Which I'm happy to see, because that's less that they have to show the other teams as they look to make their run deeper into like the gauntlet of the playoff rounds that they had.
Yeah, because I mean, just to remind anyone who's listening, anyone in the losers bracket at this point, there is one team coming out of the losers bracket to make worlds. The rest of the teams will all go home. The
Punch the bus ticket.
The two winners bracket finalists that we'll get to, they have locked in worlds already. So there's one team left. So
yep.
A number of teams fighting for it. So that kind of, I guess, wraps up. There's not a lot more to say for the Cloud9 series, but that kind of wraps it up. And
yeah, big 3-0 again for Cloud9, which puts them against, after that puts them against EG, which I'm pretty sure as we're recording is going on. But yeah, after the short break, we're going to cover the EG versus 100 Thieves and the TSM versus Team Liquid. We'll see in a second. And we're back to cover the upper bracket of the NaLCS playoffs. We will start off with the game that was Saturday, 100 Thieves versus EG. What'd you think?
Overall, like, really solid series. I honestly, just throughout, was not sure who was going to come out to win that. I was really impressed by both sides, which I think whichever team, well, with this being Evil Geniuses losing the series overall, I think EG is going to be a really difficult matchup for any team in the lower bracket. I was impressed. So, I mean, the fact that is Cloud9, I expect that to be a good series. I've not been keeping any tabs on the games going on, so no spoilers here, Justin. But I fully expect EG to play pretty solidly. They did against 100 Thieves, and it did seem like 100 Thieves was slumping a little bit, but honestly, like, it was just so back and forth. And even like game one, though it looks like it was pretty 100 Thieves sided, there were a number of points in that game where EG was down that I felt like, oh, they just win this fight, and all of a sudden they're back in the driver's seat. There was no huge point that I felt like they were completely out of it. And I think a big part of that was to their team comp and the picks in that game. The fact that they had so much CC along with the amount of damage that they had. I mean, the Ash Arrow, Leona ult, the Ornn ult, Syndra stuns. Like, they had so many different ways of either peeling for themselves or to be able to go in and start a fight that all they needed was that one fight to go well for them, and they win that game. They just weren't able to get that fight, and I'd say that was mostly in part to Closer and how well he played throughout that match, as well as the Abadaga's Rise. The two of them, like, just looked phenomenal in that game.
There is something terrifying about a team that win or lose is saying, yeah, we'll run that comp back. Like, there is something so terrifying about that to me because all 100 Thieves was doing was like swapping around their bottom lane basically, but they kept that top side of the board exactly the same the whole time. And that to me is something of like it ignores the champion pool conversation. Like, so many people want to say, like, oh, he played 5 champions during the series. Like, his champ pool is so deep, blah, blah, blah. I see the other side of it. I see players that are just like, yeah.
Doesn't matter, won the game.
Exactly. Or lost the game, doesn't matter. We're not going to doubt the picks. We're not going to doubt the champions. Like, we can see it objectively. Like, oh, you just got like a dragon or a hook or a whatever.
That's a team that's comfortable with their planning and really feels like they have hit the nail on the head with what they're doing. Yeah.
Yes. And that is terrifying in a team game because what they're saying is we don't give a fuck what you're doing. We know how to play the game. Right now, we know what the meta is. And the meta is Viego jungler, get a strong fucking top lane, and get Ryze in the mid lane. Have your mid laner be able to be in every lane at the same time, or at least threaten being able to be in every lane at the exact same time. And I know I texted you over the weekend, simply closer is an animal. Honestly, he was the story of that series for me. My man was everywhere. And everywhere he went, he was getting kills. He was taking farm. He was taking an advantage. My man, I think, won that series hands down for 100 Thieves.
I would definitely agree. And even in game 4 that they lost, like, that was
the mid and top laner fucking up hardcore.
Due to that, like what you're talking about, just allowing Danny to get kills on someday on Gangplank and onto Abadaga on Ryze that shouldn't have happened. That
they could have just walked top lane.
They were under mid lane turret. They just decided they needed the ace. They got greedy and they got screwed for it. Like, I mean, and
it should have been a 3-1 for 100 Thieves is what I'm saying.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even if you look at it, like, that game got dragged out, and even with EG winning at the end and getting an ace, it was still 20 kills to 20 kills, 8 towers to 7 towers, 1 inhibitor, 2 barons, 1 baron. Like, and even the gold was exactly the same, 70.8 thousand gold per team. Like, and that's with EG getting kills at the end as they're pushing to finish and everything. Like, there was no reason that it should have been tied up there. But EG did get to take it to a 5th game. And in that 5th game, I think that was probably 100 Thieves' most decisive win in that series.
I think I would agree.
They just put on a show. Closer came out, looked phenomenal on the Lee Sin. They had to change up their picks and everything for that last game of the series. Which was
like big time, actually. Yeah.
Which was interesting though, because the Ryze wasn't banned. The Viego was picked away first by EG, so that was, I guess, the main thing with that. But I mean, it was interesting, especially the fact that the other interesting thing was that throughout that series, that was the only game that 100 Thieves played on red side.
Yeah.
Like, that's bizarre in general, but the fact that was the game 5, the last game, was the only one they played on red side, I guess that's probably what messed with their picks and bans and took away them wanting to pick the Ryze, but that was
that's a really good observation. No, but there's something weird. Okay, so there's a question. Do you think it's weird Do you think it's weird what they're doing now with the like picking the side? Like, shouldn't they just like alternate and then like do a coin flip for like game 5 choice or something?
Um,
Like, isn't the like picking the side like kind of weird?
it's kind of tough because there's always, not always, but there's often a side that is slightly favored by picks and bans. So if
But it's based on what strategy you're going for.
yeah, but say,
Which is weird.
But for instance, say okay, say
talk
you
me through
you
it.
have Cloud9 versus EG. Cloud9 starts off red side. Say you do an alternating and then a coin flip. Like say blue side's favored. Cloud9.
Why would blue side be
Well,
favored?
no. I'm just saying hypothetically. Like if you say like blue side's favored, Cloud9 starts on red side for
Because
game
of
one.
the first pick, is blue side favored?
Well, I'm just saying in a hypothetical situation, I'm not giving any reasoning why one side's favored or the other. But there's like, it seems as though the majority of teams at different points in meta and whatnot prefer one side or the other, primarily due to picks and bans, because either there's like say there's one ban that absolutely has to be made, and so the blue side's always going to ban that because red side gets first pick. So if you don't in season 2, if you don't ban the Kassadin on blue side, then red side's going to first pick it every time, and you're going to
Because
be fucked.
red side doesn't have to ban it.
Because red side doesn't have to ban it because they pick first.
They can first pick it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So say for instance, like blue, Cloud9's red, EG's blue, and say maybe blue side's favored. If Cloud9 wins game 1 on red side just by whatever chance, and then they get on the more favored side of it all of a sudden, then you're like, oh, well, Cloud9 is probably going to win that, and then the series is lopsided. So this is more like you allow the teams to alternate picking which side they prefer. So it's like home team's advantage no matter what. So like say for the 100 Thieves EG series, 100 Thieves was like, yeah, we want blue side because we're the higher seed, we'll take it. And then the next game, EG's like, nah, we still want red side. We don't want blue side. It's our...
Right.
Like we're supposed to be the home team for this game of the series or whatever. We are supposed to have that quote-unquote advantage.
And then you just have a draft plan for going second.
Right. So it's...
Okay.
This
so
gives more favorable to, like in professional sports, like when you're alternating back and forth, they'll have a best of 7 series for the NBA. And the first,
same with NHL, correct?
Yeah.
Same with the MLB, correct?
I believe MLB, yeah. But but they'll have the first 2 games. The higher seed gets to play at home for the first 2 games. The second 2 games are away. Then you have game like 5, 6, and 7 potentially just alternating back and forth. So like the home team gets, so say the home team wins the first 2 games at home because they got the crowd going and everything, then they get 1 win at the away team's stadium. So now they're
what a momentum shift.
Now they're up 3-1 in the series. They need 1 more win, and it brings the games back home for that game 5 of the series. Then they have that extra advantage. So this is a way, in a sense of
home field advantage is a metaphysical notion, by the way. We're talking about concrete advantages that can be leveraged in when you get access to a champion.
Right. But in this sense, because they don't have that like external home field advantage, this is kind of a superficial home field advantage of, hey, like if you feel more comfortable playing on this side or that side,
we're giving you the opportunity to choose it.
Exactly. So it's giving you the potential to pick your advantage in that sense, whereas in a demographically a league that has teams spread out geographically, not demographically, where you've got teams in Philadelphia, New York, San Francisco, Florida, like whatever. Like,
Yeah.
you've got your fans there giving that energy and whatever, whether that's placebo effect or not. Teams typically seem to play better at their home court.
And they factor it in for sure. It's a talking point for sure. So, there's something to be said for it.
So there's definitely statistics that relate to that. So this is kind of, I think, a way in a isolated setting where they're all in the same studio every time to give some sort of like home field advantage to the higher seed. Like in a 5-game series, if it goes to game 5, 100 Thieves has the opportunity to pick which side they want 3 times instead of 2.
Well, EG had won the last game, so they would have chosen blue side, right?
Is that? I thought it was alternating who gets to pick. Is it who won the last game? Honestly, I don't know how that works.
I think it's winner. I don't know.
I would be curious because I would think that it would be alternating back and forth.
I would probably agree.
Where
would be the fair way to do it.
Where the higher seed gets the
first one.
That's what would get first, third, and fifth game pick for side.
Gotcha.
That's how I would expect it to go.
Okay, so the advantage of being higher seed in a 5-game series is that if it goes to game 5, you get the linchpin game choice.
Right, just like in other professional sports, when it gets to game 7, if it's a 3-3 series in those sports, the higher seed gets the home.
Right. Court. So then let's talk about what top side gets you, because it's blue side pick second. Blue side picks. No.
Yeah, blue side gets second 2.
No, red pick 1 and 2. It's blue pick gets blue side gets first pick.
Oh, interesting.
Red side is up, blue is bottom.
Gotcha. I had that backwards for some reason. I was thinking
that's fine. That's fine. But
so like if there's
I lost my point. Oh, yes. Okay, so blue side allows you to get the big prio pick, like the busted champion. But then red side advantage is you get to counter pick any of the solo lanes. Like you can save any pick basically to be the counter pick. You get to see their full team before you pick your final champion.
Yep,
those are like the 2 explicit advantages of each side.
Yep, exactly.
Okay,
and then
very cool.
And then the red side gets first pick after the second stage of bans, but still you have less to pick from at that point. The blue side first pick is like the biggest thing.
I agree. Now, how much do you weigh the second round of bans in like the overall story of the series? I tend to just feel like that's like just pinching of what's left
for the series in general, I think in general the second round of bans, especially, it's a little dependent for me. So in regional leagues, LCS, LEC, LCK, LPL, whatever, those second round of bans are a lot more important, in my opinion, because those you can specifically isolate certain people's champion pools based on your knowledge of having played them and seen them for a large amount of games.
And what role has already been picked.
Right. And I think internationally, it's a bit more difficult. I think those, at least earlier on in round robin stages, play-in stages, things like that, those are still kind of reserved for just banning out the strongest champions left on the board. As opposed to, or strongest champions left on the board that you don't want to try and pick. Because in things like regional leagues, like this playoffs for LCS, like they know the other team and the other players so well. They have so much data on them. They have so much, not that they can't get data elsewhere, but they have one-on-one data from scrims, from matches on stage, from all these things to say, hey, don't give Sven Callista because he's going to fuck you up. Like, that is something that they're like, yep, ban it. Like, get that out of here. So, in a sense, it's, I think, a stronger thing in regional leagues than it is internationally. But I think it can be really important for isolating weak links if a team is not picking for, say your jungler has a small champion pool and you don't pick a jungle champion in the first 3 picks, like, you could be fucked.
It gets pinched, yeah.
Like, you can pinch really hard on that.
Okay, no, that's a really good answer, actually. Yeah, I like that.
So yeah, it's definitely interesting. But
okay, so that conversation started with us talking about Game 5 in the EG 100 Thieves series, where they totally flipped up the pick and ban.
Yeah, and the thing with that, like, honestly, I was just, like, the change-up and everything of them being able to shift their gameplay and all to match what they needed for that game was huge. Like, getting closer on the Lee Sin after he had played Viego 4 games in a row, and him performing well on it. Huhi on the Rel, Huhi and FBI, that game just absolutely dominated. I mean, combined 5-0 and 17 in the bot lane. Like, that's absolutely insane. And I think that they, just with the flip of that from going from the blue side to the red side, they had a game plan, and I think it did tip off a little bit of, like, what they're looking to do for other teams potentially. The fact that they got forced to 5 games, like we said with Cloud9, they played 3 games, they kind of did the same thing each time, they didn't have to show any of their cards. I think 100 Thieves had to show some of their cards with that last game by saying, okay, like, we can't just win this series straight out doing what we're doing. We have to kind of play this strong comp that we think we can pull off. And they 100% did. 100 Thieves, 100%. Like,
yeah, in that game, though, the one thing that I noticed that's, like, kind of an anomaly is the Kennen ban. I'm curious if that's going to be a point of problem for 100 Thieves in the next stage of the tournament. Like, is there a pick or a strategy that they're playing that Kennen does, like, really well against?
I think it was
within the context of that series. That's a weird ban. That's a weird ban.
Well, I think that it's weird. It's not. I don't see it as weird because in round 1, EG versus Dignitas, EG used the Kennen pick to counter the Gnar that Dignitas picked.
Oh, in game 3.
In game 3. So I think they were getting down to it. They knew
the Gnar.
I think that they knew they wanted the Gnar at that point based on what was left. Like, the Ornn was banned out, Renekton was banned out, Lee Sin was taken, and I think they were like, yeah, like, let's just go with Gnar. Like, people aren't going to ban Gnar typically. Like, Gnar's been banned here and there, but it's not like, super common. I think they're like, let's ban the Kennen, take the Gnar.
Okay. That's even weird. That's okay. To your point, though, I see that. What's weirder, though, the more common ban in that scenario is the Jace to protect the Gnar.
Yeah, and
So that's a good read from 100 Thieves, knowing that that's their answer
Yeah.
They're not going to pick the Jace. They would go for the Kennen in this spot.
Yeah, because Impact is
really strong pick ban.
Impact is much more like commonly, or like he would play the Kennen
before he played the Jace.
Before he would play the Jace, way before.
Wow, that's so strong. I didn't even notice that when I was like watching the things. Like having this big breakdown of everything that was chosen is like super helpful.
Well, and even in that instance, they banned the Kennen, take the Gnar, and Impact didn't take the Jace that was open. Like he took the Sion.
He had played it earlier in the series, 2 games in a row,
and he didn't take it into the Gnar. He took he was taking the Jace into Gangplank, but
that's when he took the Sion.
When it was Jace into Gnar, he was like, "Nah, I'm good."
Wow. Wow, that's very interesting.
Yeah, so I think that is a really good read on 100 Thieves' part for saying, hey, like, we don't want to play against Impact's Kennen.
Wow, what a heads-up move.
Yeah.
Dude, honestly, that gives me feelings of, like... Dude, that gives me feelings of EDG versus SKT when they let him pick the LeBlanc and they countered with the Morgana.
Yep.
Bro! God, that was such a good series, man. Like, you knew he was going for the 11-0. He was 10-0 on LeBlanc going into that game.
Yep.
Wow. God, that's just so cool, man.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so I'm kind of curious now to look. I'd have to look, and this would take too long for me to figure out. But I'm curious what Impact's win rate is on the Kennen. Because
like lifetime.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, because I really feel like he's been pretty good on it, just in general, but I'd have to go and look and see. But
I'm having intimations of like worlds like teleports into team fights, right? Like that sounds very Impact to me.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure there were a couple of Impact teleports where he escaped by using the Kennen, the speed up, the power rush or whatever it's called, to get away and then teleport from a bush back instead of basing to escape. Like I'm pretty sure there were a couple times that happened, but
oh man, I'm so excited for Worlds. But so that was I would say engaging series from 100 Thieves and Evil Geniuses. I know I had a lot of fun watching it.
Should have been a 3-1, ended up a 3-2, but really a good, fun series to watch, 100%.
It turned on the hard mode.
Oh,
you know, that's all that was. They were like, let's just give him another chance.
Oh, yeah. That was a fun one, though. So
I concur. Going into the next game, or the next match that was played on Sunday was TSM versus Team Liquid. Overall, just give me first of all impressions, then we can go a little bit deeper.
Huni sucks.
Interesting. I'm not so sure that would have been my takeaway.
No, not my biggest takeaway. Again, I was really honestly, I think the most impressive thing to me was just Jensen's play throughout, which was except for don't put Jensen on Orianna. Just don't. Like let him Don't give him the safe control mage. Give him the fucking 50-50 winner lose, go ham. Like, I don't want Jensen on the, hey, like, play it safe, put out mediocre damage. Then in the late game, if you hit a shockwave, like, then you, like, that's the thing. Don't put him on that. Put him on this aggressive, early game, strong, like the Syndra, like you have the range advantage. You get that early damage. She's strong early. Yeah, you're immobile, but if with his positioning, like Jensen is one of his best points and why he has been so successful that's the biggest reason in my opinion that Jensen has been so successful is his positioning and fancy feet to grab a little catchphrase from the LCS desk. He is phenomenal at dodging abilities, not getting hit by stuff, and positioning extremely well. And that lends itself so much to more aggressive picks than the Orianna. The Orianna, it's not about where you are, it's about where the ball is. Like, that's a big, big difference. Especially when you can only move the ball so often, whereas when you can move your champion character like multiple directions per second. Like, he was the standout player for me, or the kind of MVP of that series for me. I would say his teammates played well, particularly Core JJ, but overall I was mostly impressed by Jensen and his play throughout the series.
I would have to agree with that. As far as like looking at the mid lane matchup, I think Jensen way outclassed Power of Evil. TSM spending 2 pick ban phases with the Azir. I'm not sure that was where they wanted to be. And I think to your point about the Orianna, I would just like to kind of add on. I think it was the same thing with Power of Evil's Azir as you see with Jensen's Orianna. It's a pick that just wants to go a little too late than what games are going currently and like what the meta is allowing for as far as pick bans. Like, it's obvious that these are like big comfort champions and are close to being in the meta. I just don't think they power spike early enough to be very impactful in like the second Rift Herald, like second, third Dragon time frame, right? Like, you just don't care about a shockwave at that point. Like, you're not going to flash through it. You're not going to flash over it.
Right, and
it's just not hitting like, hard enough, right?
Like I said, like, oh yeah, if you get to the late game, you can hit the Orianna. Oh, why did I just blank? You just said it. What's the name of the ult?
Oh, Shockwave.
Shockwave, yeah. Sorry. You just said it, and it just flew out of my brain.
That's probably why.
You hit a late game Shockwave, but, like, there is not much late game in the current meta. Like, there's just not.
No,
like,
people shove so fast.
You push so hard to get turrets with the Rift Heralds, then you've got the Baron does so much for you. Like, the Dragon stacking can affect that. There's a lot, and late game is just not super prevalent. Like, late game right now is like 35 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, whereas 100%.
3-4 years ago, late game meant like a 48-minute game. I mean,
right?
What was the longest game we had in LCS? Like 80 minutes or something obscene.
I think it was like an hour and 5 minutes or something similar.
There have been some like obscene game. Yeah. So LCK 2018 spring game between Jin Air Green Wings T1, 94 minutes and 40 seconds.
Does it have the champions that were in the game?
Yes. Ornn, Kha'Zix, Azir, Sivir, and Tom Kench versus Gnar, Jarvan, Kassadin, Ezreal, Janna.
Wow. Those are late game comps, dude.
The longest LCS game, NaLCS, was Complexity versus Curse, which is the one that I'm thinking of, which was an 80-minute and 37-second game.
Okay, gotcha. So okay.
Yeah. So there have been like that was something that was 6 years ago or I guess 7 years ago now, but still like 3 years ago we had the longest game of all time in professional league at 94 minutes. Like, no games should ever ever go that long. There are
that's wild.
There are no 2019, 2020, 2021 games that there is one 2021 game and one 2020 game in all of this list of the top 50 longest games. And they were one game was in the LDL, which is China's lower league. And the other one was in the European Premier First Division League. Between two, like, they're not it was not professional leagues.
Right. Okay, so yeah, we're just in a different place. We're not late game. We're early game.
It's just not a thing right now. So the Oriana, in my opinion, is just not.
And Azir. Yeah, it's not working out.
Yeah, the Azir definitely as well. Similar vein, like, not a good pick. But Jensen looked really good. Speaking on your boy Tactical had a phenomenal series as well. He looked really solid, almost, I would say, similar to how you were speaking of Sven, like super low in terms of death, playing lots of those immobile 80 carries and playing them very well. But just, yeah, really, really solid throughout. And they had a few different kind of play styles, or at least kind of champion pools throughout that series.
They had a couple different looks throughout the series, yeah.
Yeah.
And, dude, like, the fact that we're glancing over is the 5th seed, like, 3-1 the 1st seed. Like, TSM's out. They're not going to Worlds.
They have a shot. They have their lower bracket matchup versus Immortals.
That's right. I forgot about that.
They've got the Immortals matchup, which they've got coming up tomorrow. So we'll see how that goes.
But that's still crazy that 5th seed beats the 1st seed. Like,
yeah,
I mean, their record was pretty up there going out at like summer. So I was very surprised that Liquid was able to beat them.
Well, I think particularly based on their performance later in the season, I think TSM seemed to have come on pretty strong at the end of the season. They won 5 out of their last 7 games. So, like, they were looking pretty strong, I would say, coming into the end of the season, and definitely were deserving of that 1 seed. But yeah, they just were not able to really be very successful. Liquid has come on extremely strong in the playoffs. I was extremely impressed by them, like we said last week, and their performance against Cloud9 as well. Like, they look hot.
Yeah. And I think my 2 points of concern with TSM are... No, I shouldn't say that. My 2 biggest boons for Team Liquid is that they are drafting really well, and also, like, in the server, they're playing very well, I would say. I think the like mid-game skirmishing sometimes has a coin flippy feel with them overall, but on one-to-one comparisons, I think they have a lot of these matchups like in their favor, especially with Alfari in the top lane. We've been talking about Jensen. It seems like he's just leveling up, moving through the playoffs and moving towards Worlds. So yeah, Liquid playing on a whole nother level, and I really appreciated. Was that the series that they subbed out Santorin? I'm trying to think. There was a series this weekend where a player was subbed out, but I'm pretty sure Santorin played all 4 games.
No, he played all 4 games.
Okay, gotcha.
I don't recall who that would have been. But the other thing that I honestly was a little disappointed with, which makes me a bit more concerned for TSM in general, is their picks and bans, especially in later games. And so, like, they got hit pretty hard by the core JJ Bard and then picked it the next 2 games. Like you said, it was like they were picking it away as opposed to actually...
But didn't know how to play it themselves.
Yeah, as opposed to being like, oh, we actually do it. And yeah, like, especially I think in game 3, it was unfortunate almost for TSM that they picked it and did well, because then they were like, oh, like, we can do this again. And like, it did not look good. But in game 4, I really just don't like their picks in general. There is too much all in. They have no peel really for themselves at all, other than a hopeful Bard ultimate. Like, they're like, with the other teams or other champion picks that have gone along with the Bard, there is some sort of peel. Like, you have a Syndra that can use your knock away. Like, you have pillars coming from the Trundle. You have Syndra with the knockaway. Like, you have in the other two, just based on the other 2 games of the series with the champions matched up alongside the Bard. In that one, you've got LeBlanc. LeBlanc can go in or run away by herself. She's not peeling for anyone. Felios isn't peeling for shit.
He can't even peel for himself.
Bard, you've got your ultimate or maybe a stun. Jarvan, you go in. Like, there is no, like, you can ult on someone and maybe use your little, like, flag and drag away. Or, like, Lee Sin, you can kind of, like, kick a person. But, like...
So they had no exit strategy. They could only go forward.
You can only go forward. And if you lose the early game and get behind, like, you lose in a team. Like, that's why I was so impressed with some of the other, like... play styles and stuff like that with other teams throughout the playoffs, and especially this round. Anytime you have a team that was picking a, like, kind of dive comp, it seemed as though they were fully prepared to also be able to back out if they needed to. I mean, you're looking at, like, I'm trying to see if there was another good comparison. I remember seeing one where there was, like, an all-in comp that they had some ways to get out. But, I mean, the evil geniuses in game 1, like, Leona they have that can go in, they can all use that. You have Ornn that can also go in. You have Lee Sin looking to go in. But you also have Ashe for an Ashe era. You have Syndra for some disengage with the stuns. Like, you've got some balance, some push and pull, some engage, some disengage.
Okay. That was a good example.
Number of the teams were picking things like Braum as a support instead of some of the other ones to be able
because you
to
can go forward and back with him.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, in a game like that where you've got all this dive, Lee Sin is all about the up-close combat. Like, LeBlanc, same thing. Jarvan, same thing. Like, I don't know. Maybe a Braum would have been the right pick in that last game to say, hey, like, this is some disengage for us that will allow us to have some protection, get away if those dives don't work, but it's also some engage as well. Like, they just did a little dice roll on a full engage comp with no backup strategy, and I think that's just poor drafting in general.
Yeah, especially in the sense that, like, what I'm looking at now, like, Tristana was up too when they picked the Aphelios. If I'm seeing correctly, yes, Tristana was up when they picked the Aphelios. So even in that fully forward composition, they still had the opportunity with that last pick on red side to pick themselves a safe AD carry. They opted not to.
Fuck, Varus was still up. Like, you've got
but even he's immobile.
He's immobile, but at least he's got an ult that you can lock up multiple people with. Like, it's better than the Aphelios in terms of that.
Yeah, but
I agree.
After, like, Camille and Xin Zhao, like, that's super risky to pick.
Yeah, you're right. Tristana, but, like, I think...
So I'm seeing more pick and ban flaws for TSM than I'm seeing like in-game mistakes from them or misplays or like miscalls or whatever.
But that is concerning to me even against...
Sure, it's a problem.
But even against Immortals.
Yeah.
Like...
because Immortals played pretty similarly, it looks like. No, not really. They played a couple different champs, a couple different comps. Never mind. No, they switched it up. So yeah, that's concerning.
Like, it's concerning, and not that I think that Immortals has better, like, in general, I'd say skill cap. Like, the average skill of TSM is up here, and the average skill of Immortals players is a little lower.
If they're playing to the win conditions of their team comp, though, that's better.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so that is... I mean, you're looking at potentially... I mean, TSM is playing for their lives now, playing tomorrow in their best-of-5 series to try and make it to one more series to make Worlds.
Mm-hmm. Like, not a position TSM is used to being in.
And not a good one for any team that does have aspirations of making Worlds. I mean, even for Cloud9, there's no... Well, like, the gauntlet runs, that is... Cloud9 has done
They have more experience there than anybody else.
But none of these players or coaches. It's just the same organization name.
Jack was there.
Jack was there.
Can bring him there.
Jack, you know what happened after Cloud9 lost to Team Liquid? No. Jack said, "We're buying your flights to China right now. Fucking make it to Worlds if you're paying me back, bitch." That's what happened. He said, "I'm buying your flights and booking the hotel now. Don't disappoint me."
That's funny.
That's what happened.
I mean, they made a good start against Golden Guardians. We'll see what they can do against EG though.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do believe that there is some danger on the horizon for TSM if they're going to continue drafting like this. It's weird, man.
Yeah, and like for a team that was number 1 at the end of the regular season, I did not expect them to have this much difficulty with figuring out what to pick and ban. I don't know, they were on it. They knew what they were doing, and now I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know. They seem a little lost.
Lost is a good word for it, being that is the namesake one of their players.
Did not do that intentionally, but
no pun intended.
But it did fit well. So,
but yeah, up there with closer though, Santorin was playing the map really well. I think there was a pretty big disparity between junglers in this series. I think Santorin just like understood the Rift versus Dragon trade like all series way better than TSM did. Not that they were making the right choice every time, but it felt like Santorin's objective control was just a little bit better throughout the course of the series.
Oh, I definitely would agree. That's something that we talked about during the first round. Like, I really feel like the first Rift Herald is like one of the most important objectives because you can get so easily that first tower. get the gold, and then it's just so much easier to get the second Rift Herald and just continue to snowball from there. Like, in the time that you get the first 2 Rift Heralds, the maximum the other team could get is 2 dragons, which, if it's like, maybe if you got Ocean and an Infernal, that could be pretty big for you. But at the same time, you're going to easily be contested for the 3rd, 4th, 5th dragons just because the other team has a gold advantage at that point. Like it's
just easier then.
It is a big hill to climb back up if you lose that first Rift Herald. I feel very, very strongly about that being kind of the most important objective of games currently
I agree.
Is getting that first one. So,
or at least if you're not playing for the Rift Herald, at least playing in a way where you're leveraging your bottom side pressure to get at least plates. At least plates on one person. A concerted effort to funnel gold into one person. If it's not the Rift Herald, it's at least the consideration of plates. To your point, Rift Herald is the easiest way to access those plates. No matter what lane you're going towards.
Exactly. It's
too. That's a great observation about the meta right now.
Too big of an advantage for most teams to climb back from.
And Santorin was making that trade, I think, all series. So, more power to him, man.
And I think the other thing that lends itself to that is one, just like So, to get the first Rift Herald, you have to have an earlier game comp where your team is just better at lower levels with less items to be able to brawl earlier on. With games being so quick now, those champions typically scale more quickly and fall off. But if you don't get to the point where they fall off, like...
Doesn't matter.
So, that's kind of what I expect kind of going forwards in these playoffs into Worlds. I don't think there's going to be any substantial meta shifts going into Worlds with whatever teams go. So that also worries me a little bit in case TSM does end up being the 3rd team to go to Worlds. Just because I don't know if they're going to be able to perform as well as they would need to on the international stage based on their picks right now. So
it would likely be another 06. I'm predicting it's going to be 100 Thieves, Liquid, and Cloud9.
That's kind of where I'm at as well, but I mean, we'll see. We've got like you said, we've got couple different series. We have 3 this weekend, so we've got 3 or 4. Is it just 3? Yeah, it's just 3.
It's just 3. It's the losers. It's 2 more losers bracket games.
Cloud9 EG, TSM Immortals, and then Liquid 100 Thieves.
Right. Which I'm assuming Liquid 100 Thieves is going to be like a 3-1 or a 3-2. I can't imagine either team sweeps that.
No, definitely not. I think Liquid's pretty favored in my opinion, but
really,
just based on how they're playing right now, the fact that EG took 100 Thieves to 5 games, with how cleanly Liquid was able to beat C9 and then TSM. I mean, 3-1s versus Cloud9 and TSM. I've been just really impressed with Team Liquid's play in playoffs right now. I would not be surprised to see them do a similar kind of 3-1 to 100 Thieves. So
I think Closer's much better than that.
Santorin is really solid though too. Like I think that Santorin and Closer is a pretty relatively even matchup. And I think based on how things are going right now, I would definitely favor Jensen over Abadaga.
Okay.
So I would expect that to be a 3-1 for 100 Thieves. I don't think they'll 3-0 them, but
Wait,
think
3-1 for 100
or
Thieves?
sorry,
3-1
for Liquid versus 100
Right.
3-1 for Liquid. I expect 100 Thieves to get at least a game, but I don't think it is going to be a very close-looking series.
Interesting.
And I mean, hey, both of them have punched their ticket to Worlds already. Like, this is just like, see who goes to, like, play-ins, I guess. Because I would assume, how would this work? I'm trying to figure out how it would work. So, I guess Sunday is the lower bracket finals. Then you have series versus the loser of 100 Thieves Liquid versus winner of lower bracket finals for third place. So, yeah, okay. I guess the only thing that's still to be decided is which team goes to play-ins at that point versus who goes straight into the round-robin stage at Worlds.
And that's actually, like, a pretty big distinction, so I imagine both of these teams aren't, like, going to fuck around in any way.
Definitely. I was trying to think about it a little bit to see if they would just kind of coast in, but yeah, no, neither team should be doing that.
Or not a coast, but if they would, like, play differently in some way.
Yeah. Like, be like, like, worst case scenario, we're still going to, like, round robin, but yeah, no.
Right. Or I've, like, done the handshake before the match and, like, it doesn't matter who, like, yeah, it doesn't matter, and then play whatever. Like, they're, like, playing, like, Master Yi's and fucking
Ramus.
like, Warwick and shit. Like, that'd be insane.
Weedwick 420.
I mean, that's not even that insane. Like, Warwick was actually, like, meta for, like, a decent bit of time.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's some champions that you almost forget about, though, because they haven't been played in competitive in a while. Master Yi, Ramus, Warwick, like, there's a number of them that, like, you could probably name and be like, oh, yeah, that is a champion.
Or champions that have never... I wonder if there's a champ that has never been played competitively.
No, there's not.
They've all been played competitively?
Yeah, because there were...
Oh, well, across all the regions.
Yeah, and there were seasons that they were like, only these 3 champions have not been played competitively this season. And, like, especially, like, if you look all the way back to Season 1, I can guarantee that they were.
Gotcha, okay. So, no, that makes sense to me.
But I am always intrigued. That's one thing I do miss from the League of Legends subreddit was that they would weekly have, like, a little infograph that was like, these champions were 100% pick ban this week. These ones were, or these are the top 3 pick ban champions and stuff. And then they would say, like, sometimes have in, like, what champions were the one, especially later in the season.
Right.
Like, what champions hadn't been picked, or how many, or what was the percentage of the total champions that had been played in LCS.
Right. Okay, that's pretty cool. And it was always, like, very high numbers.
Yeah, like, there were times they got up to, like, 98, 97%.
Wow.
But then, like, across all regions, typically.
Right.
But, like,
right.
Yeah, I would say every champion at some point has been played in competitive, but
that's just crazy to me. Like, there's just certain champions that I associate with, like the world stage that make me, like, not even think about the little pleb champions.
You look at it right now, and all of a sudden you have, like, the meta shifted, and all of a sudden Ryze and Syndra and, like, those... and Orianna are all playable again. Like,
yeah,
we're not going to see a Mumu at Worlds. Like, we're not going to see Fizz. Like,
but we might. Especially Fizz, dude. Like, I don't know. I don't know what the numbers on him are. I don't know if he's, like, actually playable, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But, like, I think he is a playmaking champion.
Yeah. Like, Katarina.
That troll pole is insane. Katarina, she's another one.
They're definitely...
big pop-off potential.
Don't expect to see any Teemo or Tryndamere.
Probably not. Yeah, definitely not those two.
Yeah, but there's a lot of champions out there, but we've seen some recently that I didn't expect. I didn't expect to see Zach come back out. Like, I didn't think he looked bad, but I didn't expect to see him. There's a few different ones that I'm like, I don't expect to see Riven played at Worlds.
No, that's true. That'd be insane.
Unless there is a world where...
Dude, that'd be like a bin move, man, to, like, pick a Riven.
If there's a world where Riven's being picked, it's got to be an Assassin meta again, where you've got Zed being played and Fizz and stuff like that. That's the only scenario I see Riven. Like, you won't even see Riven into, like, an Akali pick or anything like that. It's like Zed, Fizz, maybe.
Riven's so sick, though, by the way.
Oh, super cool. Like,
yeah.
That's the only reason.
The amount of outplay potential in her kit is, like, absurd. Like, through the roof absurd.
It's the only reason I would ever want to see Revenge play at Worlds, because he is definitely not one of the top players in LCS. Like, I don't think he's the top
Riven player in LCS.
Yeah, he was a Riven one trick before he got picked up.
Gotcha.
So he was like one of the top probably 3 Riven players in North America.
It looks so clean.
If not the top one, like he picked it I think last year in LCS, like in
wow.
He picked it a couple times when it was actually playable, and like he started getting it banned against him like sometimes in LCS.
Oh wow, that's fascinating. I love that.
Because they were like, well, he was a one trick on it for a while, so they were like,
right. So anything else was like third tier.
Yeah, it was like, let's ban it away because it's his best like champion. So
right. Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, when he first got picked up for FlyQuest, I'm pretty sure it got banned a little bit. That might not have been last year; it might have been 2019.
Sure. We're old
still. So yeah, but 100 Thieves. We've got 100 Thieves Team Liquid for the upper bracket finals.
Yep.
Winner of that goes to the finals for the LCS Summer Split for LCS overall going to Worlds. Loser of that plays for second, third place match against the winner of the losers bracket, which could be Cloud9, TSM, Immortals, or Evil Geniuses. So we will see how that all shakes out on the lower side. But yeah, some 3 good. And so just looking at it, so we've got Cloud9 EG series, we've got TSM Immortals series, we've got tomorrow, 100 Thieves Liquid series on Saturday, and then the winner of Cloud9 EG versus the winner of TSM Immortals on Sunday. So we still have 4 series this week.
Okay, so another large and packed episode next week as well.
Yeah. So lots to talk about. I think that's all I got for LCS for this week. I know it was a lot. All we got was 4 series and a lot of talking. So any other, I guess, final notes before we move along to the kind of end of the episode?
No, I don't think so. I think we hit all kind of the points of the series that we wanted to. The only other thing I wanted to mention was just kind of give highlights to anybody paying attention to the other regions. Just talk through briefly what happened across the globe.
Oh, absolutely.
In LEC in Europe, we had Rogue beating Misfits 3-2. We had Mad Lions beating G2 3-1. And then in the lower bracket, we had Fnatic going 3-2 against Team Vitality, which leaves Mad Lions versus Rogue in the upper bracket finals, which takes place this weekend. So that was kind of a breakdown of what went on in Europe. In LCK, we still have the semis and the finals to go. Right now in the quarters, T1 beat Live Sandbox 3-0, and Red Force beat Africa Freaks 3-1, and we still have a couple series to go there. going into this weekend, and I'm sure the following weekend. And then in LPL, some pretty exciting stuff, actually. LNG beat Suning 3-2, and Team WE beat OMG 3-0. In round 2, LNG again comes out victorious 3-1 against Top Esports. And then in round 2, Team World Elite again, another 3-0 against Billy Gaming. So World Elite has a series against Rare Atom, and LNG already beat Royal Never Give Up 3-1 in their series, so they are looking like hot favorites to go up against Team World Elite in the finals. That's going to be a really good series, actually, if anybody's paying attention to LPL. Both of those teams, very exciting. World Elite, pretty low in the seeding. I'm pretty sure they were the 5th seed going into the tournament. So they're actually making a pretty deep run.
World Elite was actually 7th. So
they were 7. Okay,
and
so
they
were actually lower.
And LNG was 8th. So LNG and WE were both World Elite were both low seeds coming in.
Yes, so, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so the fact Billy Gaming was in 6th, Top Esports was 5th, Royal Never Give Up was 4th, Rare Atom is 3rd. So in that matchup, for Rare Atom and Team WE, that's a 7 seed versus a 3 seed, and then that
would be a big upset,
really big upset. And it'll be interesting to see LNG versus Fun Plus Phoenix, because FPX was the number 1 seed and Edward Gaming was the number 2. So
they had buys through all of that.
They kind of have a gauntlet kind of system leading up, where each team, unless you're the I guess 6 through, or what is that, 5 through 8 seeds, you get a bye in the first round no matter what.
So no, sorry, 7 through 10. 7 through 10 play in the first round, but 5 and 6 get a bye to the second round. 3 and 4 get a bye to the third round. And 1 and 2 get a bye to the fourth round. So they get deep byes each time depending on their rank. That actually makes sense. Well, that's them playing a bunch more games during the regular split too, so they kind of to a degree they kind of earn it.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So, actually some really exciting stuff coming out of the LPL playoffs this year. So that's just, a little breakdown of what's going on in the other regions if you are listening on this particular Thursday evening, because data moves quick in playoff times on the lead-up to Worlds. Eventually, all of this will be a moot point.
Oh, absolutely. And so...
Yeah, but that's all I kind of had for the League of Legends. I just wanted to give everybody a rundown of what's going on across the world. But other than that, we can finish it out with our flavor of the week there, sir.
Awesome. So I'll get rolling on that. So my flavor of the week for food, me and Colleen made some shrimp fajitas that were. It was a kit from. HelloFresh that she gets, and
love them.
Came in really, really good. Honestly, HelloFresh is great. This is not a plug for them in particular, but all the food that I've had from them has been really solid when I've had it here and there. So that was my food. For my music, I've actually just been trying to listen to larger variety, specifically to find different new songs to add to my genre playlists. So I've been trying to listen to some different country, folk music, some different rap, some different pop, whatever it is that I'm trying to add into my different genre playlists. So nothing specific. I did find some Fleet Foxes though when I was going through my my folk and country kind of branching out, so that came up, which was pretty cool.
Hell yeah.
And then my show that I wrapped up this past week was White Lotus on HBO Max. So it's interesting show. Did I talk about it at all last episode? I didn't think I did. The gist is it is a show that follows a number of guests while they are on a vacation at this hotel in, I forget, it's in like Mexico or something like that, called the White Lotus. It's in like a resort destination kind of place. It's the White Lotus Hotel. And so all of these guests are extremely wealthy, and so it's kind of going through like their who they are, their life problems, it's kind of a commentary on the wealthy people and how their lives are comparatively to like the normal person, the layman.
Okay.
And so it was interesting to me in a sense, primarily because I could relate very well to the hotel staff dealing with some shithead guests. So it was entertaining. It was extremely frustrating in some aspects because I could 100%. There were guests that I had that popped into mind that these guests like reminded me of the show
had
guests
to deal with.
Or
I guess the employees would have had to deal with. Sorry,
right? That the employees in the show had to deal with in the show that I could completely relate, and I could think of specific scenarios where I was like, "Yep, I've been there."
Oh wow!
And to the point
so
that
good.
like the employees and staff were going through some feelings and all that I had definitely gone through in my time working in hotels. So it like hit really close to home, which made it very enticing to continue watching. But at some points, very like I was like physically uncomfortable because I was like, I've literally been there, and I was like, I hate that. I was like, there were certain characters that I was like, I hate this person because I know what it's like to actually deal with them.
Right. They're more real than the fiction would suggest.
Exactly. And for anyone who's going to watch it, don't expect there to be much of a plot. There's a vague plot throughout it, but it's generally just like
like little vignettes, little stories.
Yeah, it's like these people are at this resort for a week. This is what happened while they were there. Like that's it. There's no real external plot. There is some character development, but there's not like a huge storyline that's like at the end of the show, like you're gonna have some big conclusion to everything and anything. That's not gonna happen. So don't go into it expecting it. It's still very entertaining. So
okay, fair enough. That sounds interesting. White Lotus.
Yep.
Very cool.
And so that is my flavor of the week.
Nice, man. Okay, cool. So similar to what we were talking about before we started recording, I recommend a little video to you. So my music flavor of the week, I went back and was able to listen to Pimp a Butterfly as though it was my first time. There was a young gentleman that I watched who shared the album with his dad, and through his experience, you're kind of able to get the feel of what it was like the first time you were hearing it. So going back and listening to Kendrick's great work, To Pimp a Butterfly, then I went and put on Good Kid, Mad City on my record player and was listening to that. I fucking love that guy. I fucking love his music. He is just the tits. So yeah, my flavor of the week has been Kendrick Lamar. My food flavor of the week, me and Sarah ordered some sushi earlier, and the reason why I chose this is because I can make this little funny thing where we had gotten sushi probably like 2 weeks prior, 3 weeks prior from a different joint, and it like wasn't that good. It tasted like it like was like freeze dried, like it was for astronauts or like your dog or whatever.
You got it from
hey everyone, welcome to the Tall and Short of a YouTube channel.
Yes,
yeah, it was gas station. It was gas station sushi. And so this week we were able to get some sushi from Joyful House. Shout out that place. And that it tasted so fresh and tasted so good. The sauces were amazing. So yeah, so eating sushi that was better than what we had was amazing. And then I've got 2 movie recommendations for you if you haven't seen them. Beckett on Netflix. Beckett with John David Washington, I'm pretty sure the guy's name is, plays the main character. It was awesome. Unexpected, didn't have high expectations going into it. It did a lot of things right, in my opinion. And as a little spoiler, just so I know if you go and watch it, there's a scene right towards the very end that is like, if you are a fan of modern cinema, you have seen this particular scene before in one film. Now, usually, I'm not a fan of like, you know, taking like I'm not a fan of just like copy and pasting something. But they took this scene, they took the idea and like made it very much their own, incorporated into the story. And I would love if you can come back and tell me what scene I'm talking about, and then also what scene in modern cinema like it feels very similar to. Because I'll give you a hint. I got Christopher Nolan vibes from one of the scenes in this movie, and it was so refreshing. The soundtrack was amazing. I highly recommend Beckett. I highly recommend it. It was a lot of fun.
Interesting.
Yeah. All right. So that's the first one.
Okay.
That's a new movie, and then my second flavor of the week is Arrival with Amy Adams and Jeremy Renner.
I have seen Arrival.
Yes.
Very, very good movie.
Dude, it was so much better the second time around. This was my second time watching it.
No, I've seen it twice as well. It's
so fucking good, bro. So fucking good. So for anyone out there who has not seen Arrival, directed by Denis Villeneuve, it was adapted from a novel, a science fiction novel that's similar. Great premise, great acting, great writing, great audio mixing. It's an experience. If you love like language, poetry, if you love books, it's this like deep exploration of what it is to just communicate.
And
so,
what
yeah,
languages and what like
yes,
it goes so deep. It's such a cool movie.
It's awesome. To the degree that me and Sarah were talking, I want to get prints of their language. You know, those circles?
Yeah.
I would love to get like 2 or 3 of those prints like up on the wall. I think that'd be sick.
That would be really cool.
But yeah, so big flavor of the week for me. A lot of re-exploring flavors that I've had before, but re-experiencing them was so much fun. So yeah, that's my flavor of the week for the week.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah, man.
So that takes us to the end of this week's episode. So for everyone listening, of course, you can find us still on anywhere you find podcasts, Spotify, Google, Anchor. We are on YouTube, of course, Twitter at Tall and Short of 1, the number 1. You can go and hit us up there.
Formula 1.
We are getting ready for Formula 1 this coming weekend, so excited for that. So hit us up if you have any thoughts, especially with some of our Formula 1 topics that we've had, talking about the thoughts with costs, who should pay the bill for any crashes, things like that. Love to hear it in the comment section on Twitter. But looking forward to seeing you all again next week. Justin, take us out of here.
I would just like to say thank you so much for listening. If you enjoy what you heard here today, please consider hitting the like, hitting the subscribe button, tell your friends, get everybody involved in the conversation. Other than that, I would just like to say this has been another tall and short of an episode. Peace out, everyone.
Later, guys.